Hello, it's Alina GG, and today I have a very special guest for you. I have Roy Bristow, Man of Merlin. And Roy is a wizard who guides people going through their spiritual awakening by providing answers that they seek. Welcome aboard, Roy.
Welcome. God, I got huge tingles from that. Never heard it
Yes.
spoken that way before, so that's
Oh,
that's huge confirmation for that.
oh, wow. That's
Been doing a lot
beautiful.
of updates on my website and marketing, I suppose, of
Mm-hmm.
late, and it because it's so challenging. Because when I tap into so many different realms and so many different facets of the spiritual industry, it's like one day I'll feel like it should be written this way, and then the next day I feel like, and it's like, right, well, what do I need to say that just sits there so I can leave it alone for at least 6 months?
Oh my gosh, I relate to that so much. Like, especially on this path, we're always growing and changing, right? So we're
Yeah,
not the same person we were like 5 minutes ago or 5 years ago,
correct.
and ah,
Correct. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a
we change from day to day, and we're
yeah.
getting more influenced by the planetary, like the the massive 5D energies that are going on are just making us become more flexible.
Mhm.
So if we try and fit into one box, that energy and our life path says no, because I've instead of being in a square box like we probably were 10 years ago, it's like a moldable jelly and it will just change the next day. So
Mhm.
it's probably a bit challenging for kids that are about to leave school because they're going, yeah, but I want to be a graphic designer. And then the next day they want to be something else. And then the next day they want to be something else. And plus like the influence of social media and everything else. And this is where one of the biggest life lessons everyone on the planet is getting right now is one of boundaries. And the universe is working with one of the biggest, most powerful energies in the universe right now is irony. Because I literally said, like, we're being given this ability to have flexible boundaries, but we're being taught rigid boundaries at the same time,
My gosh,
which is
I've been
why it can be
feeling
so
that.
confusing.
It is. I've been feeling that a lot in my life. So thank you for saying that out loud. Even in
Mm.
conscious relationships, it's like, oh, I want to open to love and be relaxed and in all different settings. And then sometimes I find a boundary and I'm like, well, hang on, this doesn't feel right for me. This is like, oh, that felt like something crossed my boundary there. And then what do? You just sit with these uncomfortable feelings. And it's like sometimes it's an opportunity for growth and expansion and to open up to greater love and realize that we're all connected. And sometimes it's like, actually, no, I don't want that. That doesn't feel right. So it's like a fine line, isn't it, to decipher
Yeah.
sometimes, especially as a sensitive being, I find.
The best way I can describe it, because I've literally just been given an image of like a house on the prairie. So it's got its fence, so it's got its boundaries, but it's on a prairie, and people outside of that fence can wander around it all they like. It's no one's land. And you can wander out there if you want, but then when you want to decompress, when you want to have rest and be away from all these powerful energies around, you can go inside that fence and feel safe and home. And that's what it is. We're being taught what we're actually being taught is framework. Framework is very different to boundaries because framework can be changed, but it still creates, it's like the skeleton is the human body's framework, but you look how many different looking human beings there are, about 7 billion, because everyone looks different, but everyone's got that framework. There's only two different frameworks, because the human skeleton, you've got the male skeleton and the female skeleton. The female skeleton is slightly different. And that's the framework of the human body. And then it's infinitely changeable outside of that. And our energy system is being taught the same thing.
So, okay, so if we're being taught that, how do we know when we've learnt that?
So you just mentioned about you felt a boundary being crossed.
Yeah.
Then that's up to you to look into that and go, okay, why is this crossing my boundary? Why is this trigger? A buzzword at the moment is trigger.
Mm-hmm.
And why is this triggering me? And then looking at rather than playing the victim side, saying, "Oh well, this is happening to me." It's like, what is this? So you play student instead and say, okay, rather than going, "Oh, this person's triggered me," and blah blah blah, I don't like the person, whatever reason. you say, okay, what is this person teaching me? The universe has sent this, either a random stranger or a friend or partner, whatever. They've sent them into your life in that moment, in that divine, perfect moment, to say, we need you to grow. We need you to alter your framework, or we need you to strengthen the boundary on that part of the fence because there's a gap there. Because this is really important for your life mission. And we don't always realize how important the smallest little details in our life is for our life mission.
Mm.
You know, think about how highly tuned sports stars are these days. That one little change in routine stops them getting injuries. And it's just the simplest. It might be simple. Instead of doing 50 reps, they do 40. And that stops the injuries.
Mm.
It seems inconsequential because they might, the human ego might go, but I can do 50. And the intuitive body is saying, no, you can't. But we rarely listen to our body. And that's one of the biggest things we're being taught to listen to these days. Our body is starting to talk to us very clearly, and we're completely ignoring it. We're still eating the junk food. We're still over exercising. We're still not resting.
Mm. Yeah, I used to listen to like rest a bit more when I needed to, but I've just got so much momentum and so much I've got to do now and get through, especially as a single parent. I'm like, I rest little micro bits. Like I'd lie down for 10 minutes yesterday on a Sunday, but I worked all weekend and had kids and did all of that. And it was a lot. And then I was like, I need to rest. And then was like, I just feel tired, but I just didn't want to lie there for so long being unproductive. So I actually moved my body a bit, but then I,
And
it's,
yeah, and here's the question: why isn't rest considered productive?
I mean, sometimes I feel that it is when I really let go and then I receive downloads, right?
Mm.
And there's a beautiful story actually that illustrates this point about, Monet, the artist, the impressionist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he was like, he was in his garden looking at flowers or just sitting there or something. And his neighbor said, "Oh, so you're not working today? You're not painting?" And he went, "I'm working." So whilst he was resting, that was the work. And then he was painting. And then the neighbor said, "Oh, you're working now." And he said, "No, I'm resting."
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a really good. I've never heard that story before, so thank you for that.
Okay.
It's a beautiful thing, yeah. Because there's a common meme out there. It says, if you see me walking, especially in regards to intuitives, like if you see me walking along the street talking to myself, I'm in a team meeting. And rest, not having contact with physical humans, that's the time where I get a lot of my information, or I might get heads up going, this person's coming in. Because sometimes, for whatever reason, I sometimes get a 3-day heads up about a client coming in because everything happens in divine timing, not our timing. The human timing doesn't exist, it's an illusion. Divine
Yeah.
timing is the only timing that rules.
Yeah. 100% agree with that. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. It's just a man made construct, isn't it? The
Correct.
hours, the days, the years. It's like I feel like I'm getting younger and like fitter and more alive and more exciting and more connected to life. I'm not getting older. That's a myth.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I mean, I'm 51 and a half now, and I'm probably the fittest I've been in my whole life. And I played sport for a long time. Played soccer for 20 odd years, did martial arts, all those things, and I'm doing less now, and I feel fitter.
But you're probably listening to your body more by the sounds of things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I always listen to my body anyway. So, but on a higher energetic level, our body is less dense now too. So we're more light. Our DNA's getting upgraded energetically. So we need different types of food, and it's about starting to listen to that. That then makes our body lighter, which enables us to listen to our body more and also receive any intuitive guidance. And that when your body's dense, it's more challenging for that information to come through because it's information of light, and light can't get through a black curtain as easy as it can get through a white one.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm.
So when people come to you with questions and they want to make changes in their life, like is there a common theme why they come and see you and want to work with you?
I Over the years, I've noticed two main categories. The people that are about to start their journey. So they need it's like a kid going to school for the first time. They know they're going to school, but they don't quite know why. So I'm able to give them their first steps because I tune into what their journey is and say, yeah, this is what you need to learn first. I don't say need, but I'm saying, like, no, this is guidance. This is the best path for you in the beginning, and that will vary and change like the winding path that the spiritual journey is, or the people that are stuck, that have just been blindly walking along their life or need deep healing and that need that really deep shadow work kind of kick up the arse, essentially. And just haven't been listening. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What
There's a
about,
few of the in-betweeners, but not many.
yeah, I was just tuning into in between, like in terms of like, what if you've been on a spiritual journey for a long time and then you've had like a big curveball, lots of life changes, going through divorce, like things like that. Um,
Yeah,
that's a
so
real
that's
shake
basically
up.
the start of it and the next level of journey. So
Hmm.
it's still kind of like the kid going to school rather than going to junior school, you're going to high school or you're going to university. It's, that analogy fits. Yeah. You're basically starting again and you need a whole new set of rules, or the path has taken a T junction.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting to navigate, isn't it? When
Mm.
you feel like you're starting all over again, but you're not really, because it does build upon the work that we've done previously.
Yeah, yeah. I've learned that we kind of, that the Hansel and Gretel story about the breadcrumbs, our whole life leaves breadcrumbs right from we're about 4 or 5, if we can remember that far back. So little things you did as a kid tend to be directly linked to what you end up doing as a career. Even something as simple as playing with Barbie dolls or Action Man or whatever toys you played with, because you're more in tune back then. And so, yeah, for me, interestingly enough, like back as a kid, I used to play a lot with like little toy soldiers, but more Native American Indian ones. And they turned out to be my guides later on.
Wow.
So those little things. So it's worth revisiting the joyful things you did.
Yeah, I just
Just
see myself in nature. I've got this beautiful childhood memory, and I was under this tree, and there were these beautiful little violet flowers. And I remember picking those, and my sister was near me, and I was singing, and I was just singing, connected to nature, playing with these flowers. And it was just like probably one of my happiest childhood memories because I felt so connected to
yeah,
my
okay.
surroundings.
And
Yeah.
look at your background.
Well, I'm a singer, a songwriter as well, but I'm not really doing that at the moment. But I know I'd like to tap
Yeah.
into that at a
But your
more
background's
spiritual.
also flowers.
Yeah, flowers, definitely flowers. I love flowers. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but my background. I
Yeah.
thought you meant like my
Oh,
background.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. And then one of the first businesses I started, I was like a child. I don't know how old I was, 8, 10, or something like that. And I got this little trolley, and I would pick all these flowers, and I'd go knock on everyone's doors, and I would sell the flowers to them. And like, yeah, I was like on a mission with that. But
Yeah.
that's quite literal. I don't know. And actually, I just got some essences of this custom blend. Someone who I'm going to interview on the show, he made this custom blend from like Australian natives, which is pretty cool. So
Mm.
yeah, they're powerful, those essences too.
Yeah. So there'll be something in regards to flowers and singing. Because when
Mm,
you told that story, the two key words that jumped out were the flowers and the singing.
yeah.
And this is the thing, we're being called to look at the obscure and create something that's unique to us, because there's literally a million singers out there. And
Mm,
this is just my personal take on the music industry. There's no individuality anymore. It's just cookie cutter. My partner uses that term, like cookie cutter. You're just getting these boy bands, boy singer, girl singer, and just wash, rinse, repeat, probably getting AI to write the lyrics.
mm,
There's no Queen Bohemian Rhapsody anymore. And that's the thing. So it's like, okay, well then, how do you take flowers? How do you take singing and blend them together and create something so unique that that's going to heal people?
wow. I love that.
Because we don't, because our human brain, which is logical, doesn't connect those two things. But our intuition is going, Lou, Lou, it's so obvious. And we're not listening to it because I think we live in this, or we think we live in this logical world, but we don't. This world is highly intuitive, but we block it out because it expands and it's scary. And the reason it's scary is like the amount of times we think that the universe is forever expanding, it makes our head go, oh, what? No, I've got to stop thinking about that, there's no end to it. Where does it exist? And every time, I mean, I obviously can't speak for everybody, but even when my logical mind goes into that, how do we exist? It makes the head hurt a little bit. Like, okay, I've got to stop thinking about that. It's just too expansive. Intuition is kind of the same because it just connects to everything and anything.
Yeah.
And having that challenge to then focus it to our life and our expansion. And that can still seem locally overwhelming. Like the analogy I often use to my clients is when they're a bit overwhelmed because, well, I've got this, got that. Don't look at the mountain. You think about how a mountaineer will climb a mountain. He'll decide what date he's going first. Then he'll get his team together. Then he'll get his equipment. Then he'll book flights if he needs to fly anywhere and all those things. He's probably got about 8 processes in place before he gets anywhere near the mountain. Whereas often people just look at the mountain and go, oh, it's too hard to climb. Can't do that, can't do that. Instead of going, okay, what's the very next step? And that's where I tend to take people. Forget all that in ahead of you. Where's the first step?
Yeah.
So for you, where would be the first step of joining singing and flowers?
Just getting some flowers in the house and doing a little singing practice and sit at the piano and just
There you go.
play with the energy, right? Without having to be anything or create anything or make money. Just like go into the creativity that's in me.
Yeah. And look how quickly that came. Because it's the small step, it's the very next step in front of you, and it came like that. And everyone, no matter how overwhelmed you are, when you take them to where they are now, because it's only the now that exists, and ask them to see what's right in front of them and not look at anything else. Everyone can see what's right in front. Well, the irony is, here's the irony coming in. Not very often people look at what's right in front of them because they're too busy going, but I want to be here. I want to be a millionaire. I want to be whatever. But how do you get there? What's the very next step? And quite often, more often than not, through my experience through all the clients, not a logical step, which is why they're missing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why it's so important to listen to our intuition and connect with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
maybe go and sit outside under a tree and with some flowers and sing. Go back to your child, because your child was the one that was connected and didn't care too much about logic.
Yeah, that's so true. So, conscious manifesting, you speak about that. What does it mean?
Yeah, well, it's about being aware of what you're asking for, first and foremost. Because, again, with the 5D energies that have come in, we're being held responsible for everything we say and think. And, and how we talk to ourselves and how we talk to others, because our words, which is spelling, we're becoming powerful. We're being given the power of our manifesting abilities. And it's kind of like live by the sword, die by the sword energy. If you're always complaining, you're manifesting things to complain about. But if you're positive or you've got these positive sayings every day, but things aren't coming that you're asking for, have you stopped and thought that you're asking for the wrong thing? It's about being fully aware of the feedback from the physical reality. The physical reality is just your feedback of what you're creating. So if it doesn't look like how you want it to look, then you've got to take full ownership and go, well, I'm creating this. I'm responsible for this. What's the first step to change it? And sometimes that might require 2 years of deep healing to clear all the limiting beliefs or self-sabotage or self-worth issues or uncovering things that your human body and human mind has blocked out because it was so traumatic. And then taking ownership of that and actually facing it and allowing it to come to the surface and allowing you to go through the feelings of revisiting that thing, but not staying there as the victim, but going back there and going, right, I'm going to learn from it this time. Because at a soul contract level, at our spiritual level, we chose to go through these things for a very deep, meaningful reason. And
So
that's,
yeah, sorry,
sorry,
I
yeah,
just cut you
yeah.
off.
Often our what we consider our greatest trauma is actually our greatest power when we face it and flip it and bring it to the light. How many times have you seen people who have gone through really what would be considered horrible stuff and have written a book about it and then empower millions of others? Well, if they didn't go through that, they couldn't empower millions of others. So therefore, was it a bad thing? Or was it necessary? And then when you go there, it's like what we call the perpetrators, they were the teachers. They also chose at a high spiritual level to be part of that process. And when you start going there, you start to become very powerful in how you manifest, because you're very consciously aware and you take full ownership. You don't play victim anymore, and then you start to be grateful for others that have made you grow, given you strength, giving you an insight into a part of the world that's dark, so you can bring light to it.
Wow. Yeah, that rings true.
Hmm.
So if we just do an example of like, let's just say a core wound of abandonment, right? That could have come from past lives as well as childhood,
Hmm.
right? And shifting, working on the energy, feeling it, releasing it, blah, 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 blah. Then, and not wanting to be stuck in it, and then wanting to move forward and not wanting to feel that trigger. But then how do you get through that when okay, so then going, hey, I don't want to be the victim. I want to be, feel full sovereignty and full empowerment and love. Is it just those little steps of monitoring your thoughts and your inner critic, or is there something else?
Yeah, but it takes constant work until it becomes so. In the beginning, it tends to be the rock that drags us down. Oh, I was abandoned as a child, or I was abandoned, my my partner left me, I was abandoned, those kind of things. And you set in that energy and it's a rock that weighs you down. Whereas the other way, you use it as a fuel, going, well, that person gave me strength. I'm able to run a business on my own. Without that lesson, without that ability to be forced in a position where you're on your own facing life, you wouldn't have the strength and that inner drive to figure it out. So therefore, then when you flip it, it becomes a battery rather than a rock. And then every time that energy of abandonment comes in, you still get that choice in that moment to let it drag you back a bit or let it propel you forward. So you never let it go. You just change it into a propelling force or a dragging force. And it's always one of the two. And there's this where the conscious bit comes in. In any given moment when that crops up, you get to choose. There's your conscious. So you can either choose for it to always be your teacher for the rest of your life. And this is the thing, this is something that a lot of people don't realize. They try and move through it and let it go. But it's part of you. It's your shadow. You cannot let go of your shadow. And so a lot of people spend all these get books and courses and stuff like that, trying to get rid of something instead of making it lighter, because you bring shadow into the light, making it lighter and making it a power source.
Wow.
And then it
That
doesn't
is,
feel
yeah,
heavy.
that is such a powerful reframe. Thank you.
Hmm.
I'm going to fully integrate that into every cell of my being.
And then instead of it, going back to the prairie house on the prairie analogy, that white picket fence, instead of it being a hole or the possums and that can get in, it becomes one of the parts of the fence that you just painted and looks new. So then what happens is, like, as a just quick example, if your business grows and you start to get employees, and then a really good employee leaves, you don't feel abandoned. You send them on their way with grace, knowing that they've had, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent when they work for you, from their eyes, in, and I don't mean it this kind of way, but you don't care. You don't care that they're going. You send them on the way with love and go, thanks for working for me. Thanks for helping my business during that 2 years you was with me. Of course, I'll give you a good reference. I wish you all the best. Whereas if you're still using it as the stone, well, that good employee left me, my business is going downhill. You start saying, no, your business goes downhill because you're the one manifesting that, because you're the one spelling that into your reality.
Yeah, that's a really good example. Thanks.
As a parent, your kids leave you. And that's their job. That's your job as a parent, to teach them how to be an adult. You don't need to teach them how to be a kid. They know how to be that naturally. You teach them how to be a good adult with good morals, good values, respect and boundaries. And then when they're 18, right, go and live your own life.
Mm. Yeah, that process has started early for my kids because they're only 8 and 11, and I've been separated for almost 3 years, and so they've learnt to be adaptable and enjoy two homes, and they're amazing. Like, they can cook, and they've got this resilience. It's
Yeah.
almost like a blessing for them. So when they do become adults, they're going to be so capable of like being self-responsible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this comes into the little bit of conscious parenting that's also on my list. In that you teach your kids saying, no, it's great that you've got two homes.
Yeah, I say
A lot
that.
of people don't have any homes.
Yeah.
Or you can be adaptable, that you understand that adults don't always stay together and they're able to go their separate ways without being conflict. And even if there is some, it's like, well, how do you approach this? Something massively powerful that's taught to my son after my divorce and everything was like, you don't choose either of your parents, you choose you. If you always choose you, you'll get on well. Never ask them to choose you or their dad. Always ask them to choose themselves. What do you want in this moment? Oh, well, I want to go and stay at my dad's because I've got this going on. Okay, off you go.
Yeah,
Oh, I want to stay with
100%.
you this weekend, even though it's supposed to be my dad's weekend. And then the challenge there is, well,
Yeah.
they've chosen to stay here for the weekend. We can do a swap or just adapt because he's got this going on, or she's got this going on, and it's just that's her choice, not mine. And as parents, we've just got to respect their choices, because you said only 8 or 11. They're not only. 8 and 11s are very, very powerful beings. Because my son's 18 now, and the one thing I observed with him growing up was he knew what was going on throughout the whole time. The only difference he had compared to me was a level of vocabulary. And as kids, if you don't have that word to use, some kids play up because that's how they communicate. Some kids go inside themselves because that's how they communicate. And as an adult, what we don't recognize is how they're communicating, because we haven't spent the time to learn how they communicate. You learn how they communicate, and if your child goes quiet, they're saying, I've got something I need to say, but I don't have the words to say it. So then you go, look, when you go quiet, you've got something to say, which seems counterintuitive, right? There's the irony again. So it's like, okay, so let me help you. Because when you haven't got anything, when you don't know what to say, just more than often than not, it probably just means you don't know the words. So are you happy, sad? You start at the big ballpark and then narrow it down. And then sometimes like, oh, I'm just feeling a bit sad. Okay, why are you feeling a bit sad? Oh, a friend of mine at school, blah, blah, blah. And then, one of their close friends at school is going through stuff. Because they're an empath or an intuitive, they're feeling it.
Yeah. I'm feeling that now, actually. I think I've been quite empathic since I was a child. And I just feel that the energy of source that you're channeling right now is just so powerful. Yeah.
Hmm. And this is what I give for people. These are the answers I give. Because our life, just the journey of our life in its natural course, just makes us overlook a lot Ironically for you, you don't stop and smell the roses.
I did the other day though.
Mm.
Yeah, I bought some. Well, actually, my partner gave me some, and they were beautiful from the markets. And we were like smelling them so much, so
Mm.
literally. But maybe I could take that into the rest of my life, right? And actually go, hang on, I am achieving a lot. I have done a lot. Like if I look at me, a few years ago, well, I am achieving these goals I set out. I just,
Mm.
it's just the inner critic that comes back and goes, it's not enough. And that voice has been there stronger lately again.
Yeah. And who's the inner critic? Because it ain't you.
I don't know. Is it my
you
ego?
well, look, it's something we would have learned either this life or a past one. Remove the inner critic and then bring in the one that's empowering for you. Doesn't mean to say they're still not pushing you forward. There's a difference. A critic pulls you down because that's the whole point of a critic to nitpick and find fault. We have no faults. We have things we need to learn and grow. A flower doesn't always go straight up, straight, rigid at 90 degrees. It goes all over the place. Why is one rose better than another? Because it's not straight. Why is one tomato better than another? Because it's slightly bigger. Why is one person better than another? Because their journey is very different. Take identical twins. Within the first 5 minutes of their life, they couldn't be so more different because in those 5 minutes, they've had very different thoughts. They see the world very differently just because they look the same, but they see the world very differently. They feel the world very differently, so they're extremely different. Every person on the planet is a snowflake. And there's the irony because snowflake is a term at the moment for people that can't handle life. If they flipped it and saw themselves as the literal snowflake that's completely individual, that everybody loves, everyone loves snow. Even if you don't like being out in it because you're not a cold person.
Do you think that our shadow comes up stronger sometimes and before it releases? Like when you do deeper healing, does sometimes it feel even more intense before you get to a deeper layer to release and clear?
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's there to trigger us. It's there to, that's our egg break. We're always in an egg, and then shadow comes up and makes and forces us, pushes us, triggers us, which is just a sign for us that we're going to go through some expansive growth, and our world is going to expand, our universe is going to expand, our ability to manifest is going to expand, or our ability to love is going to expand, our ability to, it's an expansion process. And shadow is the driving force. If you escape from shadow, you're escaping from your greatest power. The shadow is where our greatest power sits. I mean, you said you're a singer, and there's got there's got to be some arrogance in you to be able to stand on stage.
Yeah.
Without arrogance, that most people would consider negative.
Mm-hmm.
Without that arrogance, stand on stage going, well, I'm a better singer than you. It is a little bit of ego, but if that's your driving force.
Well, the way that I'm feeling about connecting with my music is more about going that more spiritual energy, right? And
Hmm.
activating with that more like a light language energy coming through, and just it's like more of a channel, so it's not about me. And even like with this podcast, it's not really about me, it's about my guests, and it's about being a channel and just sharing that inspiration, right? And
Hmm.
it's not that I don't have ego, it's not that I can't be arrogant. Yeah, sure, I've got all of that, but
Hmm.
I definitely am coming from that space of just really wanting to uplift and inspire and raise that vibration of everyone, but it includes me as well, right? So
Yeah.
it's just not, I think for me, it's about not seeing myself as separate or excluded or something like that. I think there's an inner child part of me that feels sometimes like a bit excluded or left out or something. And it's like, yeah, that's sort of, I'm just feeling into that at the moment. But
Because I mean, what if like you're singing in the future, you'll be channeling light language from flowers. So then flowers have a voice.
yeah, wow, that's
Just putting
beautiful.
that out there.
I'm going to try it. I'm going to do it.
Try
Yeah, I'll
it.
do it. Yeah. That's
See
nice.
how it feels?
Hmm. Yeah, I like the femininity of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
beautiful.
imagine creating a song for somebody that's a love song for somebody, for instance, that's literally sung from the energy, direct energy of a rose talking to you at the time.
Mm.
Those flowers that your partner bought you, let's say there's 10 flowers in the bunch, well, there's 10 songs that no other flower will sing. And you're the only person in the world that can channel that. Channel it in, well, there might be 10 people that can channel that, but you're the only one that's got your voice. You're the only snowflake that can channel that energy, sing that energy, express that kind of physical vibration. And then that opens someone's heart so they don't walk away from a relationship. They stick it out because they were abandoned as a kid, and their self-sabotage makes them abandon first because they're going deep into love. And instead, that song makes them stand. Powerfully healing. And that's your version of a healer. That's your version of you being a healer.
It's so powerful.
Like opera.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
think about, I mentioned earlier about there's no Bohemian Rhapsodies anymore. Bohemian Rhapsody was opera and rock and
Mm.
pop and all manner of things. And it's
Yeah.
still considered the best song of all time
Mm.
because it
Yes.
has so many facets that all fit together because it came from a genius that lived his version and was unashamedly him. To be unashamedly you. And if that means you're stood on a stage with a flower, singing a song that someone can record for them, and everyone else gets to experience it, but it's for that one individual that you've pulled up on stage, that's mediumship, but in a whole different container. Then clients come to you one-on-one in a studio, and you'll bring a flower that you love, and you channel that flower, and it gets recorded at high quality level because you're in a studio, and that's how you do your business. And then that little girl that's sat under that tree amongst the flowers singing is being the adult version. Is being the unique expression in your world, in her world. And you're doing what you love, not realizing that you were doing that from when you were 7.
Wow.
My version is I lived in fantasy world a lot as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Fantasy world. That was just me training to be able to travel all around the different realms and know who they were. I go to realms now and they go, "Oh, hey mate, you haven't been here for a while. You don't visit enough." And I don't mean it's not like I sit there and daydream. It's not the case. I'm channeling and connecting into different realms. So I'll be channeling the fairy realm right now to talk to you about flowers, or possibly even the flower realm. There's a realm for everything these days. We're in the multiverse now. The empath, anybody that's an empath has an ability to talk to anything. I mean, one of my podcasts, which was called Raccoons and Coat Hangers or something like that, and I spoke about how my coat hangers need to be rotated because objects like to be used for their purpose. And they were saying, look, I'm just sat at the back of the rack all the time, not hanging clothes up. Okay. So I'll just rotate. Everything gets rotated in my house.
Wow. I have too many coat hangers and there's a whole pile of them like on top of my walk-in wardrobe just sitting there. That's so funny.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
But interesting, that little thing might seem weird to a lot of people, but it creates a balanced energy. You think about it, like you think about how many inanimate objects we have in the house. And if they're all nagging saying I haven't been used in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a year, and they're all doing it, and then we wonder why the energy's off in the house. And no matter how much sage we do, no matter how much singing bowls we do, there's always that energy, which if your kids are empathic, they're picking up on it and they're acting up. And the kids never restless, never rest. Always on, always on. Could be just that they're picking up on the energy of everything in the house that's twiddling its thumbs, bored because it's not getting used for its purpose. Everything was created for a purpose. A plate was created to have food on it. Cup was created to have liquid in it. Coat hanger was created to hang clothes on it. Everything's energy. Everything has a purpose.
Including us, right?
Exactly. I've got one specific purpose that has many facets to it. It's because we're a many-faceted being. That one core. My purpose is to awake others because I can see their gifts. I can see that tiny little speck of dust at their feet that tells the whole story that they've been overlooking their whole life. At the right moment, they're meant to hear it. Because prior to that, they're just putting a lot of other pieces of the puzzle in place. You know, if what I do is give people that final piece of the puzzle that's a bit of blue sky.
Wow. And then with animal totems, like is yours a deer?
Yeah, so there's actually a white hart, which is HART, which is the albino deer, for want of a better term, the royal deer.
What's the qualities of that?
They rule the forest, and that they know how to stand in their power with the big antlers. They're always connected, but they're very, very gentle. They walk through the forest very, very, very gentle, softly, softly. And they also know how to live at one with the wolf. They know that sometimes they've got to give their life for the betterment of the forest. The wolves protect the forest.
And do you see other people's totem animals when you work with them?
Yeah. I tend to use a napkin, funnily enough, for that.
Mm.
It's just it's a party trick that just happened one day. And I just get them scrunch up, hold the thoughts of one of their animal totems, and as they roll it out, I can see the animals in the scrunched up piece of paper.
Oh my gosh, that's so much fun.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I love eagles and dolphins and whales.
So it's interesting that you love whales when you're a singer. Dolphins are about joy, and eagles is about seeing everything from a higher perspective. And if you want to sing light language, that's a higher vibrational form of communication.
Wow. Is there anything else would you'd like to discuss today?
Have you got any frangipanis in the house?
Mm.
Find a frangipani and speak to it. See what its voice is.
Okay. I will. Yeah. Thank you. You have an amazing, amazing gift. I bet you changed lots of people's lives.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how can people get in touch with you, Roy, and work with you? You've got an 8-week program, don't you?
Yeah. That's for people that are. When we spoke about people are at that either new school level, that's what that's for. It's helps people open up to their whatever their intuitive journey is. And it doesn't always have to mean psychic. We've all got intuition, we've all got a level of higher vibrational gift within us that's perfect for what we need. So for instance, someone who's a computer programmer might be just know what computers need. That might not look like intuition. And I can help guide them how to open that up and how to work with that. And also how to create boundaries, the white picket fence, how to reframe things, as you said. That's what that 8-week encompass is. It's got a framework. It rarely sticks to it, but it is tailored to every individual. So there's that. And I do, one-on-ones. I have one-on-one sessions. They can find me through my website, which is iammerlin.org. All my details are on there. If people want me as a public speaker, I do that. If you want me on the podcast, I'm available for that. Because I just love getting my voice out there and helping people. The more people I can reach, the better.
Yeah, definitely. Because, you're illuminating. You're just like, you're really crystallizing what's important and what's true. And that's what the world needs, because there's too much bullshit out there.
Yeah, I'm empowering people to be themselves.
Yeah.
And not want to be anyone else.
Okay.
Conform to your life, not everyone else's.
That's a really good message.
But but you've got to do it from an empowered way rather than a kid throwing a tantrum way.
Okay. One step at a time. Follow those breadcrumbs.
Yeah. Because to break a habit, you can't break a habit in 2 weeks. You can start the process, but to break any habit long term, you've got to keep doing the work. Which is how I explained earlier about, you turn that rock into a battery. And it'll never leave you, but it'll turn up when you need the battery again.
So every trigger is a blessing.
Absolutely. It's there for your growth.
Okay. So feeling the gratitude around it and choosing to be empowered, and also that if the universe has our back and everything is happening for our highest good, then trusting that what is occurring and what is unfolding is actually for us, not to us, not against us. Yeah. So it's just remembering that in every moment of every day, and then using that free will that we have and that power that we have within to go, how am I going to direct this energy, and what is the next right step? What is the next aligned action I can take today that's going to harness my gifts and my purpose and share that with the world?
Yeah. The mantra I use is, whenever anything happens, positive or negative, what is this teaching me? Sometimes it's something as simple as learn to duck because I've banged my head on a door that's open. Just watch your surroundings. Sometimes it's that simple. It's not always profound. And sometimes it's really profound. But it's that question activates that answer. Because this is how the universe works, on the most simplest way I can explain it. The universe works on, you ask the right question, you get the right answer. If you're not getting the answer you want, you're asking the wrong question, which makes you take full ownership.
Have you got an example of a couple of questions that are really empowering and help clarify? Yeah, that.
Well, the best one I've just said is like, what is this teaching me? How do I evolve beyond this?
Ooh. I like that one. How do I evolve beyond this?
Yeah. Because if it's triggering you, it's putting you in a place that that doesn't serve you anymore. So it's like basically saying to you, right, it's time to grow. If you're always ending up in bad relationships, that in itself is triggering you. How do I evolve beyond this? How do I attract a positive relationship?
Yeah. Well,
the answer to that is usually you've got to do a shit ton of inner work.
Yeah. Well, I've got the opportunity of a conscious relationship now, and so it is a great opportunity, right? As we do the work, then to share and to connect We don't always have to do it on our own. It's not like either in your healing bubble or you're in a relationship
Mm.
that you're on that journey and then you share it as you go. I think some people feel like they have to be all healed and perfect and so shiny and to be in a happy relationship. And that's a myth, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You come into a relationship to grow together, to be part, to be the sum of a part.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
I,
that way, it's always you and that person versus the problem. If you're arguing, you're in an ego battle.
mhm.
If you sat there going, "Well, this is what I'm feeling," and then you allow the other person to say, "This is what I'm feeling," where do we compromise? And sometimes a compromise is fully one person's way, not always in the middle of compromise. It's what's best for the partnership. Like me and my partner, very different diets. She's gluten-free vegan, whereas my body still requires meat. So, one of the compromises is I can't cook any meat in the house. Whereas if I was ego going, well, I'll be going, well, why can't I? I've got to eat meat. I've got to cook. But I've fully gone, no, that's cool. If it triggers you, I can put my ego aside and I can eat out when we go out. Or I can just get some cured meat that doesn't smell just because there's no cooking going on. We came together, find a solution that we're both happy with. I get to eat what I want. She gets to eat what she wants. No dramas.
Oh, wow. I feel like there's so much we can talk about. Maybe you'll come back again one day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm always open. So yeah,
Yes.
the
Oh,
universe is
great.
so expansive. You can't do it in an hour.
Yeah. But this was pretty jam-packed, this chat. I'm like, wow. I'm just so, yeah, blown away. So thank you, Roy.
Yeah, no, thank you for putting it out there, and the universe responds. You see, when you take action, the universe responds.
Yeah, beautiful.
Mm.
Thank you very much. Have a
Well, thank
beautiful
you for the
day.
invitation. Appreciate that.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
you.
Oh, thank you.